Hi, and welcome to the 8th episode of Learning to Edit in DaVinci Resolve. My name's Darren Mostyn, and in this episode we're looking at properties and generators. So over the next few minutes you'll learn how to add graphics, use the inspector, resizing, keyframing, adjusting filters, but first of all let's have a look at text and titling. So the text generators for titling are held in the effects library. So if you just scroll down past transitions, you'll see a title section, and here there's several different ways of doing a title. So let's just take this first one, which is just straight text, and if I just drag and drop that onto my timeline, you'll see that it sits on top of the video channel. So it's already got an alpha channel, meaning that we can see the title on top of video straight away. So I'm going to put this at the front of our program, and if I put the playhead on top, highlight and open the inspector, we can change the properties of the title. So let's give it a new name. And you can see as I type in the inspector, it's updating in our window. And in here now we can change the font, we can change the size. And so scrolling down in the inspector, you'll see that it's really easy to change things like the background, the positioning, the font color, anything like that. So you'll also notice that there's other options in the title generator. So we've got scrolling titles, we've also got lower thirds, and we've got one over here. So if we just open that, and the nice thing with using a lower third is it automatically gives you 2 lines of text. So there's our top one, and if we just scroll down, built into that titler is a second line. So it makes it a little bit quicker to generate 2 lines of text that have individual properties. And then on this lower third, we've just used the white handles to really quickly do a fade in and fade out.
Part of the goal here.
Resolve supports most graphic file formats, including alpha channels if they have them. So you can import them as you would a video clip, or actually what you can do, you can just simply drag and drop straight out of Finder. So if I go to the end of our timeline here, and I can literally drag and drop it straight onto the timeline. So Resolve will put the graphic in the last bin that you had open, and you can then move it and put it wherever you like. So if you want to adjust a clip's appearance, you just need to open up the inspector with that particular clip highlighted. So let's go back to that lower third. And what I want to do is reposition the interview subject using the inspector. So I just simply highlight it, then the inspector properties become available, and we could just zoom in now. Let's reposition. This is great if you've got 4K material on a HD timeline, because you can really zoom in without losing much quality. Once we're happy with that, we can copy and paste that move onto any other instances of that interview. So down here, we've got another one. So Command C, right hand click, paste attributes. There's our positioning and zooming done. Say apply, and that's copied across. And that can be done to multiple clips at a time. So let's use the inspector to make some changes to the graphic we put at the beginning. So here's the graphic. And what I'm going to do is move it up to video channel 2. And I'm going to create a new background. So if we go to our generators and scroll down, you'll see one is called solid color. And if I just drag and drop that down onto my timeline and then highlight it, its properties become available in the inspector. So the first thing I'm going to change is the color. And say OK. And you can see now that the text has built-in transparency. It's an alpha channel. To make a duplicate of a clip, just press Alt and drag. So now the top layer is highlighted. Anything I do in here will affect just that top layer. So using the inspector, I'm going to modify the text on each layer so that we have these words separated. So the inspector reacts to whichever clip is highlighted. I just simply switch between the 2 layers and make my adjustments, repositioning, or whatever I want to do in the inspector. So I'm going to switch back to text and just make this a lighter font. So let's look at cropping. I'm going to take another solid color and I'm going to put it on the next layer above, video channel 4. Because it's a solid color, we've now hidden the text, but using the crop tool, I can reveal the layers beneath. So into the inspector, scroll down, and you see as I crop left, we reveal our text. Let's crop right. And I'm just using the sliders here to crop. If you go onto the numbers themselves, you've got a little bit finer control. So I'm just going to make quite a thin line. And then I'm going to change the color to white. I can now position. And I'm going to crop a little bit more off the top and bottom. So just using a solid color with some cropping and some positioning, we've created a nice graphic. So let's use these techniques to make a split screen effect. So further down my timeline here, I've got a shot of a cyclist. So to make this a bit more dynamic, we're going to choose a complementary shot to work as a split screen. So let's go to our media pool. Let's have a look at this shot. And that's quite good there where the pedals are going around. That will complement it quite nicely. I'm going to do a mark in. And a rough mark out. Just disable my audio because I don't want the audio. And I'm going to just drag and drop that on top of the cyclist. Okay, so let's just make the duration fit. And now if I go into the inspector by highlighting this clip, we can start using the cropping and positioning properties to set up our split screen. So let's just crop left and right a little bit. And then I'm just going to position it to one side. And then do the same on the cyclist. So just highlight him, then the properties affect that clip only. So let's reposition him. And then we can use a crop to give us a little gap in between. So let's play that back and see what that looks like. And you could do this with multiple layers now. So you could have 4 split screen, 5 split screen. You just put the layers on top of each other and go into the inspector and start cropping and positioning. If you're working with video or graphics that are a different resolution to your timeline, then Resolve will automatically resize them to fit. So for example, you might have 4K footage and you're working in a HD timeline, then Resolve will resize the 4K image automatically to fit. You can override that in the project settings, so you might want it to stay 4K so that you can use the inspector to zoom and reposition within that image. So just open up your project settings, go to image scaling, and the default scale entire image to fit can be changed to any one of these parameters. So you could say center crop with no resizing. It's all about animating and keyframing the inspector properties. Let's have a look at this clip here. It's quite a static shot, so what we could do is use the inspector and keyframing to make a little dynamic move through it. So let's go to the first frame, highlight the clip so the inspector is reacting to this clip. And using the positioning, we're going to activate keyframing. So press here, and you see this goes red. This is now automatic keyframing. Let's zoom into the image and keep auto keyframing off so the zoom stays fixed. And we can now move our positioning. And now if we move to the end of the clip, we can change our positioning. And that's automatically keyframed. And we can see that if we open up the transform window. And that red line is our animation. So let's play back that clip. So we've now got a really nice little dynamic move through the frame. So Resolve's automatically added the keyframes at the point where I made the adjustments. To jump between keyframes, just use the square bracket keys. And make sure that you're on an actual keyframe if you want to reposition it, because if I'm in the middle of the shot, for example, and make a change, it adds another keyframe. So let's go and animate the title that we created. Here's our title. Let's select the line that we made. The inspector is now activated for this layer. And what I'm going to do this time is put a keyframe at the point where I want that line to have appeared. So we're going to animate the line on. So let's just move forward. And about that point there, I'm going to add a keyframe. So now if I go back to the beginning of the title and make an adjustment, that will animate on to the point where I activated the keyframes. So watch this. So by placing the last keyframe first, we were able to determine the point at which the line would stop moving. So you can also add keyframes actually in the timeline itself. Let's go to our logo that we put on the end. Then highlight it for the inspector. And I want to create a nice dynamic zoom on this image. And around about there, I'm going to add a keyframe and zoom in. And so you now see I have a little icon appeared here. And if I press this and just expand my timeline, we have a curve that we can work with. So if I go back to the beginning of the clip and press Alt, I can add another keyframe. And I'm adjusting the zoom parameters by moving my mouse up and down. And by adding a Bezier point, the zoom will be dynamic and not a linear movement. And then just click on the retime icon to close it down. So what if you want to add filters to clips? I'm just doing Shift-Z to expand my timeline to best fit. And there's a shot here that I want to use. So we've still got our transform window, which we can switch off here. So as we're on this clip now, as soon as we go into the color page, we will still be on that clip. So in the color page, we can now apply the filters. We're going to look at the color page in a bit more detail next episode. So this is our clip viewer here, and this is the clip we were on in the edit page. Here's a node, and a node is just like a layer. This is where we apply color grading and filters. Our filters are in the open effects icon here, and there's a whole list of them here. And any third-party plugin filters that you might have will be populated here as well. So I'm going to take a glow effect, and I'm literally going to drag and drop it onto a node. So now our settings for the glow appear here. There's our library of filters, and there's the settings for them. And we can just adjust parameters now. So if we scroll down here, we can have a look at the glow framing, for example, and change that to be a vignette. And let's change the composite type to multiply. There, you can see we've got a nice heavy vignette on there now. So I'm just going to back it off a little bit. So you can see how easy it is to apply filters in the color page. And once you're happy, just switch back to the edit page and carry on editing. If you wanted to modify that filter, you'd switch straight back into the color page, make your modification, and switch back again. So now you've explored properties and generators, and in the next episode, we're going to go a bit deeper in that color page and introduce color grading. Thanks for listening.